vaccinations and protected from COVID-19. The Native American Community Clinic is now administering the updated Pfizer bivalent booster. The updated bivalent booster helps protect against the original COVID-19 strain and against newer Omicron variants. And it will help restore protection that has decreased since previous vaccinations. People age 5 and older are now recommended to get an updated bivalent booster dose at least 2 months after their last COVID-19 shot. That means the bivalent booster may be given after a person's primary series or after their last booster shot, regardless of what brand you received before. Even if you've already had COVID-19, you should get vaccinated. Right now, at the Native American Community Clinic, you can get COVID-19 vaccines, including updated boosters, at the same visit as other vaccines. However, if you've received a recent monkeypox vaccine, you may need to wait 4 weeks before you can get a COVID-19 vaccine, and you should discuss this with your provider. Schedule your vaccination appointment with the Native American Community Clinic by calling 612-872-8086.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hey, Olgama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for cloudy skies tonight with a low around 22, Thursday partly cloudy with a high near 24, and Friday sunny with a high around 19. Hazel's Northeast has some of the most creatively prepared comfort food you'll find for any meal of the day. Favorites include the Drunken Banana French Toast, Buttermilk Fried Chicken Sandwich, and Swedish Meatballs. Open Tuesdays through Saturdays from 8 to 8 with a Sunday brunch from 8 until 2. Located off 29th and Johnson, more at hazelsnetogo.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous. Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot, and we discuss national and local Native news and events. And as you know, Ogama, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
And as our listeners might know, this portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
Hey, before we get to your news, Ogama, I just want to let everybody know we're going to have Ruth Buffalo on today, and she visited Leonard Peltier this past weekend, 3 days. She was able to go in and visit him, and we want to talk to her about the experience. So it's a huge show today, Ogama, and we're going to start out with some huge news. Take it away.
You know, I don't really have huge news today. It's fairly quiet in Indian country.
So 13 inches here.
Yeah, it snowed 13 inches in the Twin Cities. It snowed about 6 to 8 inches where I'm at here. But, you know, we are coming up on the anniversary here of a pretty important Line 3 event, Robert. And we
Yeah.
were talking a little bit about that earlier today. There's an event that's going to be happening next Monday on January 9th on the anniversary of the Rally for the Rivers from January 9th, 2022, I believe. Winona LaDuke and other water, or 2020, sorry, 2-year anniversary, 2021. Excuse me, from January 2021, because it's already been 2 years since Line 3 construction started, Robert. Holy moly,
Hey,
I didn't even really realize that.
should we start the show over again? No.
I don't know. Like, it's been 2 years. I think I just can't really wrap my head around that. But on Native Roots Radio at 12 to 1 p.m. on Monday, January 9th, there's going to be a rally for the Rivers Reunion live on social media. Winona LaDuke and other water protectors are going to be rallying for the rivers again on the 2-year anniversary of one of the largest Stop Line 3 actions in Aiken County, Minnesota. It will be virtually broadcast on Native Roots Radio and Facebook Live, and you'll be able to hear from legal representatives and defendants facing charges related to Line 3 and from citizen science monitors who are documenting ongoing damage to the rivers and the aquifers. This is in partnership with Native Roots Radio and Honor the Earth. Really excited about this event and to kind of touch base on what happened. Again, at that event, there were so many events that happened surrounding Line 3, and it's just really good to see that we're not forgetting those people, that put, in some cases, their lives on the line. In Aiken and other counties in Minnesota, police had used pain and other torture tactics to try to subdue water protectors into complying with them on treaty territory. And it's just amazing to me how many people are still now 2 years later facing charges for that, including Winona LaDuke, Robert.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. I'm excited to have this. We haven't had Winona on in a while, and she's excited to speak her truth, and it's always very informative and enjoyable. And the other guests that she's going to have lined up too, Ogama.
Yes, absolutely. And it's really going to be a fun event, and you'll be able to catch it at noon on the live stream, and you'll also be able to catch parts of it in our evening show next Monday on the 9th as well. So there's 2 ways to tune in and watch what's happening with that, and to get caught up. I mean, if you weren't aware about Line 3 during the construction or what is happening with it, now you can get caught up on what's going on. And it's important that everybody in Minnesota, allies and Indigenous people alike, are aware of the ongoing issues that are happening, ongoing disruptions and permanent damage that's been done to the water and land here in Minnesota as a result of the Line 3 construction, because our neighbors who might be listening to us over in Wisconsin are going to be facing those same kind of problems when it comes to Line 5 crossing through the northern part of Wisconsin, across Indigenous land, of course. I do believe that it's been possibly rerouted off of the Indigenous land, but that still doesn't protect the water or land. And, the ongoing illegal continuation of Line 5 underneath the Straits of Mackinac in Michigan. Governor Whitmer in Michigan had ordered in 2019, I believe, Line 5 to shut down under the Straits of Mackinac in Michigan, and they have refused to do that. And I believe it's still awaiting a hearing in federal court about whether or not the governor, within the boundaries of their own state, has the authority to make that claim, which is funny when a governor were to do that in case of an emergency, nobody would question it. But when it comes to corporate interests, then suddenly it must be questioned in federal court, right, Robert?
Well, not only that, and what I was thinking too, Ogama, as you were speaking, is that in a big surprise during the midterms, now Michigan is a trifecta. Just like Minnesota, we're proud about Minnesota and our Democrats, that we can push more to a progressive side now, as opposed to the Republicans who are for nothing. As we can see with the vote, they've had 6 votes. I don't know if you've been on top of that, but We still don't have a Speaker of the House. Poor Republicans are fighting, so it's a
Right.
record. It hasn't been like that since 1923. So, huh.
Yeah, those are the kind of records we really hope that the people who have been sent to the legislature, really don't set for us. We would like this type of bickering to end and people to actually be working for the people and the constituents that voted for them to do what they need, what their constituents need, not what the legislators need. But that doesn't seem to be the case. And, it gets crazier every year. I thought it couldn't get any crazier than Donald Trump getting elected. But, clearly it gets crazier than that.
Well, he's even spoke up today and said that he wants them to vote for this cat and to get it over with. You're making a fool of everyone. So he even is trying to step in, and those ultra right Republicans are not having it. So
You know,
we are just sitting here, and the only bummer is too, Ogma, is that everybody's in there, families in there to see their family get sworn in, and you have to have the speaker swear them in unless they do something different really really quick. So
right.
they
Yeah,
and
it's
then
it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Like Nina said here, they can't really do anything until they get a Speaker of the House. So,
Hmm.
that's absolutely right. So you're right. They're slowing things down, and it's ridiculous, but it's par for the course. I just got to say, I saw a video pre Trump of Clinton and the Bushes talking on how much they worked together and how they respected each other, and it was really mind blowing because I do remember that and how things have just changed in less than 9 years, Ogama.
I'm 100% with you there. And, as somebody that grew up under Clinton and then watched Obama come in and had to live through George W. and the war on terror and all of those things, I am right there with you that in a short period of time, there's just been a lot of, I don't know what you want to call it, decay happening within the legislative system in the US. But we're running short on time. And I just wanted to make another quick note here. On the note, we were talking about progressiveness. And this just came through from scoop.me, which is, of course, a progressive news agency, but they translated an article from German. And in Finland, the number of homeless people has fallen sharply because they have a housing first concept, meaning those affected by homelessness receive a small apartment and counseling without any preconditions. And now 4 out of 5 people are able to make their way back to a stable life. And this costs their country less than accepting homelessness. So these types of things that the legislature fights about, whether or not they can be done and whether or not that funding exists, they can be done. They're being done in other places of the world, and the excuses need to stop.
Absolutely. Hey, exciting show the rest of the way. We got Ruth Buffalo on. We're going to be talking about Leonard Peltier. Stay with us. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Take care of your community by joining Metro Transit's Adopt a Stop program. Show your community pride by adopting a transit stop. Join us in helping keep the stop and your neighborhood beautiful and report any maintenance needs to us. We'll put a sign at the stop recognizing your efforts, plus you'll get 10 free rides every month. Get details at metrotransit.org/adopt. That's metrotransit.org/adopt.
If the statistics say that 1 in 3 Native women and 1 in 6 Native men have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime, it means our whole community is affected by sexual violence. 1 is too many. Don't stand by, stand up. Don't engage in acts of sexual violence, and shut down the dirty jokes, the gossip, the victim blaming and shaming. As a community, we can change the way we respond. Contact the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition to attend a workshop to learn more.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Health insurance that fits my budget? I'm covered. I needed health coverage I could count on and afford. MNsure helped me find a plan that works for me, and they helped me save money. Did you know that most Minnesotans qualify for savings through MNsure? And they have free experts who can help you sign up for coverage. Go to mnsure.org today and get started and get covered. That's mnsure.org. mnsure.org.
This is Leonard Peltier. I'm in Coleman 1, U.S. Penitentiary, and I'm listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
Hey everybody, this portion of the show is brought to you by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, we're always excited to see Ruth Buffalo, and really excited today to in a good way to talk to Ruth of what she did this past weekend. And I really want to get right into it right away. Ruth, thank you so much for being on, and maybe we could talk a little bit about Leonard and a little background for people that don't know all over civic media and all over the radio stations we're on all over the country.
Yeah. Hi. Can you hear me okay?
Sound great.
Awesome. I'm trying this new little microphone thing out. So I was like,
It sounds good.
oh, okay.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm definitely not an expert on, I feel like, someone else should be talking about Leonard because, I feel very new to the movement of trying to get Leonard free. So I can only share, what I know. So I ask for forgiveness ahead of time if I misspeak or misquote something, because there's so much there to unpack with his entire case. But Leonard is an enrolled citizen of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa Indians, and his dad is from Turtle Mountain, and his mom is from the Spirit Lake Nation. Both of those tribal nations are located in what is present-day North Dakota. So they're one of 5 tribal nations here in North Dakota. So yeah, I guess I'll just open with that for starters.
Yeah, and Leonard was a part of AIM, the American Indian Movement, in the beginning, but even prior to AIM, he was a activist, and he was for his people and always has been for his people. Fast forward to 1975, and there was a shootout, and there was 2 FBI agents that were murdered, and Leonard was the quick, fast way. Leonard was convicted of aiding and abetting 2 people that supposedly murdered these 2 FBI agents in 1975. And we've been fighting this ever since. Oh, the little chihuahua. We've been fighting this ever since. There's been a lot of zigs and zags with Leonard, going to Canada, being brought back to the United States for trial, and even escaped prison in 1979, and now he's been asked by many people. There's a documentary that came out way back in 1992, Ruth, with Paul Newman put out, Incident in Ogalla, and that shows that this whole thing was a setup and really to quiet down the American Indian movement in a lot of different ways, Ruth. And I don't know, I'm a novice too. So when Leonard called me, I was like probably the worst interviewer in the world. I was just so awestruck, and I was like, hey, how are things,
Yeah.
and I can't imagine seeing him face to face, which you had the opportunity to do last weekend.
Yes, I wore this shirt to on the first visit to see him. And so, yeah, I was able to visit him for 3 consecutive days this past Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Saturday, Sunday from like 10 to 3, and then Monday, 10 a.m. or excuse me, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And it was really an emotional experience. But many of us are not new, unfortunately, to having or knowing, understanding what it's like to have a loved one incarcerated in federal prison. But I did share with him, like, I have a slight, tiny bit of understanding, but nothing, to the magnitude of what he's experiencing in there. He shared that, I mean, I can't even imagine what he's experienced, what it's like to be in there. He's shared now that he has a cellmate, someone who is in his cell with him, and it's a very small space. It's about, he said, about this big of a space. And he's got only half of it, like, to navigate through. They've been on lockdown a few times at Coleman 1. It's a federal prison. It's a maximum security. It's located in Sumter, Florida. So it's about 48 miles west of Orlando. And they go on lockdown for various reasons, including staff shortages. And so it keeps them in confinement. They can't leave their cell in a very tiny, crowded space. And now he has a cellmate in his cell, which he didn't have before. Yeah.
Ruth, were you able to take notes and have a pen and paper, or did you have to? Well, I'd be terrible at this then. I would.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, it's such a huge, I feel, going to visit him, I didn't get to take anything in with me. So I'm hoping that I retain all of the information that he shared, because it was a lot of information. So thankfully I was able to visit with him for 3 consecutive days. So I would come back and, ask questions about things if I didn't understand some of it. But yeah, and then just verbally repeating it out loud, some of the stuff he shared with me, but clear constitutional violations, that there's no way he should be in there serving time. He shared that he has served 5 life sentences, and it was only supposed to be, I think, 8 years and 8 months when he went in. And right now he's 78 years old. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he went in, he got first incarcerated in 1976, February.
Right.
And so if he did the math correctly, he would have been 31 years old. And so seeing him, though, really, he reminds me of my uncles, same, sort of the same era. Long hair, glasses, but very humble, very sweet, very kind, wicked sense of humor, very witty. But he needs to be out of there. There's just no question about it. He needs to be with his loved ones, his family, and back in the Turtle Mountains, North Dakota.
Ruth, when I talked to him, I was really happily surprised that 2 things: that he was very sharp. He knows what's going on for a 78-year-old, especially a native. That's not always the case. And number 2, he was very on top of current events. And I should pop in number 3 too, that he really had a lot of great things to say about you. And I'm glad that, I just saw it on Facebook that you were there, and you did a live Facebook after seeing him, and I was just going, "Oh my gosh, that's so awesome!" Because I know how much he respects you, and so those are the 3 things I know, and just by talking to him in a short time, that he's still really sharp and he's still clear about what's going on and what's going on across the world.
Yeah, definitely. Even with the recent the new presidential election, or in Brazil, he was aware of that as well, and of the vice president being a woman of color, and that he had even met Evo Morales back in the day. And, he said, yeah, he was just a union guy, so it's really, there's just no doubt in my mind that he should be back here in North Dakota. And we hope that happens, before he's terminally ill. He had shared that he hopes that they don't just wait till he gets terminally ill and then sends him back for the last 2 days of his life, so we're hoping that. So we do definitely need to continue putting pressure from where you're at, whether it's a Facebook share or a like of, urging President Biden to grant clemency, whether it's contacting your congressional delegation, your United States House of Representatives, or your U.S. senators, and asking them to urge President Biden for clemency for Leonard, because there are clear constitutional violations. The UN has issued a report stating that he needs to be released and also compensated for time served, years of life lost. So there's so much to unpack there, but.
Well, imagine the people listening to us all over Turtle Mountain here, and we have a lot of white supporters out there. But so imagine if Leonard was released, it would be Mandela-like for us natives. It really would be a huge, huge, huge celebration all over Turtle Island, and we deserve that. We deserve Leonard being released, and so I guess I in the next segment, I just want to talk a little bit, because we only got about a minute left, Ruth. But I saw that you, and I know I was very disappointed in the January 1st, the New Year, Biden's pardons that we didn't see Leonard's name on there, and there's a big push out there. There's people, there's FBI agents now signing letters and sending it to the president. So let's talk a little bit about that for another segment, if you don't mind, Ruth.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, excellent. Hey, we're with Ruth Buffalo here, and we're talking about her visit with Leonard Peltier, and we'll be right back after this short break. Please stay with us.
Hey, Olgama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Take care of your community by joining Metro Transit's Adopt a Stop program. Show your community pride by adopting a transit stop. Join us in helping keep the stop and your neighborhood beautiful, and report any maintenance needs to us. We'll put a sign at the stop recognizing your efforts, plus you'll get 10 free rides every month. Get details at metrotransit.org/adopt. That's metrotransit.org/adopt.
This is Santita Jackson, Minneapolis, St. Paul. I couldn't be more excited about starting our days together, Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 a.m. Central, on the Progressive Voice of Minnesota.
Hi, Matt McNeil here. For the last 2 years, AM 950 has been so grateful with all the members who've signed up to support the radio station. And as a thank you, we've sent out the AM 950 calendars. Well, for 2023, get ready for even more thank yous. The AM 950 2023 calendar is ready to go, featuring photos I took around Minnesota. Members who sign up with a one-time $50 membership or a recurring monthly membership of $10 will be helping to support the largest progressive radio station in the state. And as a thank you, we'll send you the 2023 calendar. Brand new this year is the AM 950 National Parks poster. The poster features photos I took of the national parks in various locations in Utah, Arizona, and Colorado this year. If you help support AM 950 by becoming a member with a one-time $99.50 donation or a recurring $25 per month donation, AM 950 will send the poster and the calendar as a thank you. Help AM 950 keep broadcasting the powerhouse progressive lineup you love, and help keep Minnesota blue. Go to am950radio.com to sign up as a member, and thank you so much for supporting AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Winter is here, and there's a good chance your home isn't being heated efficiently. And it's likely because of air sealing and insulation problems. Inadequate attic insulation is the leading contributor to high energy bills, cold rooms, and ice dams. Great news, the energy efficient pros at Snap Construction can fix it all. Stop the heat from leaking out and save. Call 612-333-SNAP or visit snapconstruction.com for your free infrared energy inspection. Install with Snap Construction and qualify for over $750 in rebates and incentives. State and city programs are now offering 0% financing for qualifying insulation upgrades. So call Snap Construction for your free insulation energy consultation and start saving on your energy bills. Call 612-333-SNAP. That's 612-333-SNAP. Or visit snapconstruction.com. Snap Construction is arguably the most well-reviewed insulation and exterior contractor in the metro area. Visit snapconstruction.com.
This is Gregory Rich, host of Drink in the Style and owner of Habitation Furnishing and Design. People often ask me, why habitation for my home? Well, I could give you hundreds of reasons. I could talk about the extensive collection of furnishing suppliers or our exceptionally talented design team. I could talk about service, but the truth is, habitation clients come back room after room and home after home, and that speaks volumes. Habitation, put some drama into your interiors.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for cloudy skies tonight with a low around 22, Thursday partly cloudy with a high near 24, and Friday sunny with a high around 19. Hazel's Northeast has some of the most creatively prepared comfort food you'll find for any meal of the day. Favorites include the Drunken Banana French Toast, Buttermilk Fried Chicken Sandwich, and Swedish Meatballs. Open Tuesdays through Saturdays from 8 to 8 with a Sunday brunch from 8 until 2. Located off 29th and Johnson. More at hazelsnetogo.com.
This is Leonard Peltier of Honor the Earth, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm Awake.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
If you need health insurance but don't know where to start, go to MNsure.org, as they have free experts that can help you through the process and save you money. Again, that's MNsure at mnsure.org.
Hey, thank you, Ogama. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio, and we're here with Ruth Buffalo. And Ruth had an opportunity to visit with Leonard Peltier this past weekend. And I just wanted to say he not only gets around and knows what's going on, I know there was a letter written that was read in D.C. With the Leonard Peltier Walk, which started here in Minnesota and ended up in Washington, D.C. But also I was at the 38+2 horse event down in Mankato, Minnesota, and there was a letter also from Leonard Peltier that somebody wrote, and then I got a copy and I was able to read over the show the next day. He's still involved. It's not crazy. It's awesome. I mean, that he's still plugged in and hasn't given up, Ruth.
Yeah, he is very knowledgeable, and like I mentioned earlier, he's got a really good sense of humor, and you could just tell right away like how much he loves everyone, all mankind. But he it's just, I still am like processing everything because I just got back yesterday morning, but I spoke to him this morning and then last night. But yeah, he is a fighter and he hasn't given up, and he is really inspiring. I think of the movie, the series Res Dogs, and the scene from the prison, and how the young lady, she's one of our favorites in the movie, one of the favorite characters, but how she was getting counseled, and supported from her loved one in there, and definitely had that vibe from our relative Leonard Peltier. Just so much strength and so much perseverance and love, kindness, gentleness, and just really inspiring. And of course, it's not, I don't take this visit lightly because it's such a big responsibility, I would say, to make sure that I am, doing my part, my carrying through with my responsibility and trying to help get him free, because, when he's free, like they say, we're all free, not just Native Americans, but all people who have been wrongfully incarcerated. And this is unfortunately nothing new, as he says. This has been going on for 200 plus years. It's nothing new. The cracks within the system, the injustices, the bias, the racism from the courts to the lawyers to, there's so much there, but so much work that needs to be done. And, the grassroots people have been at the heart of the movement to get him free, fighting for Leonard's freedom. And so I just wanted to make sure that I mention our grassroots people who have been there since day one and who haven't given up.
Exactly. Ruth, can you describe, and I know you described where his cell, and especially now he has a roommate in that small confinement, but what is a day in the life for Leonard now? Because he's in solitary. It isn't like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when he was able to paint, write, or is he able to do that? Or what is he able to do now?
Just recently, he shared that this morning that he just now got back into the art room. So he just now gained access to the art room. So he sounds pretty excited about that because, they were in lockdown for at least 2 weeks. And they go into lockdown randomly. And again, if there's staffing shortages, they put them in put the inmates incarcerated relatives into lockdown and confined to their cells. But he just said that this morning he just got access to the art room, and that's what has really helped him throughout his time in there. And so, yeah, it was, I still am processing everything, but it just so much there. And it's amazing how, because I love art, I'm drawn to art. I love looking at beautiful artwork. It's so uplifting and healing. And, I'm not an artist. I mean, I just do like a stick man or a stick woman. And, but, I have a daughter that's a young budding artist. And, but to just kind of make the connections like, hey, of like how healing art is. And so I'm really thankful to hear that he's able to get back into the art room.
Do you know for how long a day, or is it every other day? Is it a couple hours? Do you even know? I'm just
I don't.
curious about the day in life. Yeah. And so, what is one of the things that Leonard talked to you that really hit you and struck you? What's like on the top of your head that I know he has a daughter that has never seen him free. That she was in on the walk, and those things must just lay heavy on him. And but he sounded really positive with your visits.
Yeah, he had mentioned, having lots of loved ones that want to come see him. And so I offered, especially grandchildren and great grandchildren he talked about as well. And I had mentioned, well, maybe we can help, raise some funds to get your grandchildren to come see you. And his response was, he'd rather have them come see him when he's located closer in the region. So he definitely wants to get out of there. If I'm not mistaken, he has been in Coleman 1, which is maximum security federal prison in Sumterville, Florida, for 20 years.
Wow. So when I talked to Leonard, he said the best thing to do is send letters to the president. What has he wavered from that? Is there or is that our action, a call to action with people listening?
No, definitely continue to call and email and put pressure on our president, Joe Biden. That's so important. He wants us to be more direct in asking for his freedom by focusing on specifically the different constitutional violations. There's so much, like I mentioned there. But yeah, I was in tears a few times when he would share the injustices within his case. You know, it definitely needs to be investigated. There are so much so much violations, and so even if there were a congressional hearing to further investigate his case, they would see the facts and they would see that he should be a free man today.
Ruth, can you, forgive my ignorance, can you set up how you met him? Is it like TV? Is there a screen between you? Was it an open space? How was the venue?
It's just this big wide open space. It kind of reminded me of like the old Greyhound bus stations, like here in Fargo. There was like used to be an old one, but how the seats were, so you could, we were they have, you know, in the area, in the visiting area space, like no contact rooms, like 3 of them, and then 2 conference rooms too. But we were all out in the open space. So yeah, but you still have to, it's like you're sitting 6 feet apart. And there's a little coffee table in between, you know, where you both can like eat and share a meal from the frozen microwave vending machines, which are really expensive too, like $6 for a microwavable hamburger, and, you know, $2 for soda or water, and $2 for pastries and things. But wide open space there. But it got really loud in there. You know, at one time I tried to like count, there's at least like 20 inmates in there on the first day, which was Saturday. But it gets really loud in there and you're sitting so far apart. So a lot of times I was sitting at the edge of my seat, leaning over, you know, to hear him. But so yeah, that's kind of the setup of the place. It's you're wide open, you're spaced out, but you still have another inmate or family member from another incarcerated individual about arm's length away from you, if not a little bit closer. So
it was almost like the setup of Reservation Dogs, the way it was almost like that, except I don't think they had people as close as you did.
No, and no tables, you know, no, like it was just a tiny little circular coffee table in between you and the incarcerated individual.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on so early too, and while you're still processing this. We got a couple minutes. Is there anything that you want to leave our listening audience with? We know we want letters, we want prayers, but we also want action, and action is letters and reaching out to your senator. You know, what do you want to leave with our audience, Ruth?
To, you know, definitely keep Leonard in prayer, and to continue, even if you were to send him letters, but all is good too, I think, in my opinion, some encouragement, but also for sure putting pressure on President Joe Biden, even if you want to take it a step further and put pressure on whichever state you reside in, put pressure on your U.S. senators, your U.S. House, you know, congressional delegation. Just continue to put pressure on. It's so important. And also to really stress the many violations that are found within his case. Why hasn't this been investigated yet? You know, why hasn't there been a congressional hearing yet? You know, so there's so much more work that needs to be done. But yes, definitely calling and putting pressure on President Joe Biden is important.
Well, again, thank you so much. This has been a huge show for me, and I'm so happy that you could share with our audience your experience with Leonard Peltier. And as you know, at the end of the show, we always say, "Free Leonard Peltier now." So I appreciate that connection, and I appreciate everything you do, Ruth, for our people.
No problem. Just trying to help where I can. So thank you for the invite, and always good to see both of you. Mods
Right on, and we'll be reaching out again soon. We appreciate you. You've been listening to Ruth Buffalo and her conversation with Leonard Peltier. Free Leonard Peltier now. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Health insurance that fits my budget? I'm covered. I needed health coverage I could count on and afford. MNsure helped me find a plan that works for me, and they helped me save money. Did you know that most Minnesotans qualify for savings through MNsure? And they have free experts who can help you sign up for coverage. Go to mnsure.org today and get started and get covered. That's mnsure.org. mnsure.org.
We are your relatives,
We are your relations,
brothers,
sisters,
sons.
daughters.
And some of us are your grandchildren.
We are your community. Historically, we held places of honor and respect. Because of the impact of colonization, some of us are rejected, thrown out from family, friends, and community, set up as targets for sexual violence, sex trafficked, humiliated, tortured, and murdered. Everybody has the right to be safe. We are your relatives. Remember,
Homophobia is not traditional.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves. Please join Howling for Wolves on Wolf Day, Tuesday, February 7th, 2023 at the Minnesota State Capitol. You can sign up on Howling for Wolves event page. Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
Hey everybody, this portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
That's the highlight of my day, so that's the kind of days I have, Ogama.
Well, I think for most people, the highlight of their day would probably be howling.
Yeah, exactly.
I read
Hey,
I read something recently that said for the new year, instead of kissing somebody, we should all just collectively scream. And I really felt that, and I think the howling touches on that just a little bit.
yeah, well, we used to call it primal screams in the 70s. That was therapy, and you'd
Yes.
have a pillow and scream very loud into the pillow to get all that bad stuff out of you.
Oh yeah, yeah, that definitely seems like something that needs to happen for me lately. We've been talking a little bit in the beginning of the show about Stop Line 3 actions that happened in Aiken County, Minnesota 2 years ago now at the Rally for the Rivers. And with the ongoing damage to the rivers and the aquifers here in Minnesota, it's just it makes me want to do that therapeutic screaming you're talking about, Robert. It's beyond infuriating.
Yeah, and let's just swing back for just a second before we get into that, and just talk a little bit about Ruth and what she went through. I can't imagine, and you know how I am, Ogama, with working together for over 3 years. I would need, at the very least, a pen and paper because I'd be so overwhelmed talking to Leonard and remembering
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I mean, there would have to be some other, I don't know if you could build mnemonic devices while you're in there or something. It would be really hard to not be able to take notes.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was interesting that you brought up. It was kind of like that scene with what's her name in Reservation Dogs with her aunt. Shoot, I can't think of her name, but that was one of the heaviest shows on Reservation Dogs because basically she was telling her that you know what to do and all your ancestors are behind you. and helping you and supporting you and loving you. And
Hmm.
that's kind of the vibe she said she was getting from Leonard.
Right. And I mean, there must be something to that because for somebody to have survived 45 years and 8 months in that type of situation in the last 20 years in a tiny cell in a federal prison, the level of faith and reliance on that spirit of our ancestors has to be so strong with him.
Yeah, I can't imagine. It's unbelievable, and it's kind of funny too how you brought up line three in our fight with line three and all the atrocities that have happened all the way from Standing Rock, and then what you were working with up north too years ago with the protests. But now we have cell phones and live video streams, and um, people are knowing a little more what's going on and backing up a little bit. Having Dallas Goldtooth at Standing Rock was so important for me to know what was going on and what was happening, or was it safe to go that weekend? And Leonard didn't have any of that.
Right. And, a lot of people I think didn't have access to that, during the infancy of the American Indian movement and into, its heydays. And we are really blessed to have that technology to back us up. But, even in spite of all of that technology, following the murder of George Floyd and the subsequent rallies that happened afterward and the police brutality and all of that, even with all that technology, it still cannot save us from the state and the federal government and what they seem to be so afraid of with us as people who are standing for what's right.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up George Floyd too, because I've mentioned this too in the past on the show, and it's the police officers that were aiding and abetting and were convicted of aiding and abetting are getting 2 to 3 years, and
Mhm.
Leonard Peltier is in there for 47 years.
Right. Exactly. And, I completely stand on the point that Leonard Peltier is a political prisoner and he's been in prison to make a point. They don't want to release him because um it would allow us some sort of victory, and they want to keep us down. They don't want us to feel that level of empowerment and joy and freedom at having somebody like Leonard Peltier released.
That is such a great point, and I think if people don't believe it, they need to look at no farther back than Line 3, Standing Rock, the Uranian in the Black Hills, where police turned into militarized, I mean, just even back up to, Wounded Knee, there was a whole
Mhm.
military, outside of Wounded Knee, ready to come in, and thank goodness President Nixon was dealing with being impeached in Watergate, or maybe all hell would have broke loose at Wounded Knee. There would have been
Yeah.
more fatalities.
Absolutely. And in line 3 too, there was so much media coverage and things that were happening that I think that after George Floyd, the state of Minnesota was really reluctant to have those types of police brutalities happening in large scale again. And I think, unfortunately, that was something that offered us a little bit of a protection as we were covering and, talking about line 3 and dealing with the police with that. But I mean, the police and the DNR and Aiken County Sheriff right now is dealing with a case of corruption from the sheriff there, Dan Guda, who used his position to abuse water protectors and accepted money for those positions, as well as, they're making Winona LaDuke an example as well. They've dropped charges for hundreds of other water protectors, and they refuse to drop charges for Winona LaDuke.
Oh, great point too. And the scale of justice is never really been on our side or our allies' side. The people on the right side, but history will show, who's on the right side of this. And Minneapolis, if you remember, got rid of, or I should say, Hennepin County got rid of Indian fighter sheriff, and we brought and with the Indian vote, we brought in a new person. But that's real. That's many years, and hopefully these people are going away and dying out, and but we still have a lot of other people to deal with that are Indian fighters and don't think of us as human beings, and that's why we deal with our MMIW and MIR thing daily. So Ogama, great show. Ruth was awesome. We could feel the emotion over the airwaves, and we're excited to support Winona this coming week too, and we'll have more about that in the next few days.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
All right. Hey, if you're listening to the show, you are part of the resistance. From Chief Plentycoops, the ground on which we stand on is sacred ground. It is the blood of our ancestors. We need to resist, divest, join a group, run for office. You've been listening to Native Roots Radio. We're still here. We are the 7th generation. Free Leonard Peltier now.
On the show, This Queer Book